we're no longer doing 40-hour work weeks, it's 72-hour work weeks.
It was everything that people wanted a beauty brand to be. It was popular, it was in Sephora, and yet it still failed.
Founder came out talking about their success, and I was like, bruv, what are you doing? This was my app. You wouldn't even know that I was involved. Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new techish. It is me, Michael Behane, the CEO of Pocket and Pocket Jobs, and I am joined this week with Don from TechCrunch, not Abadesi. Abadesi's chilling. How you doing, Dom? How you been holding up?
Hello, I'm holding up well, hanging in there. How
Give
are
us
you?
your quick bio. Give everyone your quick
My
bio
quick
again, so
bio.
people don't know you.
I'm Dom from TechCrunch. I cover venture capital and startups. I also have a newsletter called The Black Hat that covers politics, culture, news, and business.
Everybody go sub. So I'm gonna guess at TechCrunch that you don't work 72 hours a week because basically sometimes.
Well, I mean, like journalism, like technically you're never off when you're
Okay.
a journalist. But
So
ideally there is work-life balance.
Ideally, all right, cool. The only reason why I bring this up is I read a fascinating article in Wired magazine where they're talking about how the 996, which was popularized in China, which is working from 9 to 9, 6 days a week, i.e. the 72-hour work week, is now finding its way into Silicon Valley via these AI startups. So the article broke down how like multiple startups have actually proudly said, this is what we're doing. One startup firm actually said that it's in their job description. And if you don't want to do it, then this ain't the place for you. Obviously, breakfast, lunch, and dinner are provided for you in the office, even on Saturdays. And then actually what was super interesting was that there was one startup that said that actually we will give you the option of doing it. So let's say you've been onboarded and you're working your regular 40 to 50, maybe 6 hours of work week. If you want to jump in on this 996, we will give you a 25% pay increase. We'll give you 100% increase in your equity. So out of that company that tried to kind of switch to this model, just under 10% of the staff signed up, according to a LinkedIn post, innit? So, and I don't know how legal any of this is. I think this probably is a violation of labor laws to have
Well,
this.
that's what I was going to say. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure this is illegal in some way. But also, if
yeah,
not, it sounds like these workers need to unionize.
definitely. I do respect the fact that in at least one of them, it was optional. And it was like, listen, if you're about that life and you want to make more money, I guess technically it's like overtime, right? You know, at certain jobs that are not corporate jobs, you do have the chance of like overtime. I used to work retail. They're like, Michael, do you want these hours? I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it. So if you're going to come to me and say, we'll give you 25% pay increase and double my equity, I may still not do it. But you know, the option is on the table. But what I would say is it is unfair because even if I, as the employee, didn't want to do that option, am I now going to be punished? Am I going to have less career opportunities? Am I going to have less access to pay rises, you know, just as a regular employee? Am I going to have less access to, you know, advance in this company? So yeah, there's a reason why there are rules and regulations around labor laws, and you know, you
especially,
don't want to give employers too much power to control your destiny. Yeah, what were you going to say, Dom? Sorry,
well, it's
before I cut you off.
it's really, really interesting because I know that there have been not a lot of, but I've been seeing more of like tech leaders and business leaders speak out against work-life balance or, people who say, oh, I want this work-life balance. If they mention it in an interview, I know a lot of the times there's been a negative response from CEOs and leaders and people in hiring because they're like, well, no more of that, right? And so that's always been the thing with people who, when you miss out on these opportunities of overworking, of staying extra late, you know, it's kind of that unspoken thing that a lot of times you have to do to get ahead. And so where's the balance in that, right? Especially when there seems to be, I don't know, kind of this backlash to people who want that.
Yeah, I mean, as a millennial, I remember coming into the workplace and talking to like Gen X employees, and they were like, listen, on Friday, you're not the first to leave. What time is the boss leaving? That's when you've got to leave. And I think a lot of those toxic kind of ideas have kind of gone by the wayside in the kind of like more recent years. But I think after COVID, a lot of tech CEOs were irked by the amount of power that employees had. The remote work situation, the whole concept of work-life balance, the whole day in the life TikTok showing how great and cushy your job was. And Elon kind of spearheaded it with X, right? So now we're seeing that kind of pendulum swing back, and a lot of those kind of cultural norms are being brought back, right? Aren't they? So this is the logical endpoint, right? We're no longer doing 40-hour work weeks, it's 72-hour work weeks. But one thing that is also interesting is that these are AI startups, but these are not the actual AI model companies. These are people that are building on top of the model. So like, this is not OpenAI, this is not Anthropic. This is the company given in the articles called Rilla, and essentially it's an AI tool that enables building contractors to kind of like record their meeting notes and help them negotiate higher. Like, let's not act that you're curing cancer here, guys, right? Do you know what I'm saying? But what is really, I know, but what's really happening is if you look at Cursor, which is the kind of software engineer text editor, they reached 100 million, or I think it was like 500 million in revenue quicker than any startup in history. And essentially, with these models, you are playing, when you build up these models, you're playing catch up. So you hope the models don't just clone your startup. OpenAI has released a bunch of new features, including like recording tools, which have probably cloned a bunch of other startups and wiped out people who have built on top of their models. So it's kind of like we are in a race to get as much revenue and exit before the models clone us or before somebody else builds on top of the model, because it's actually, there isn't really a moat. The moat is just kind of speed of execution and speed of revenue. And if you don't do it quick enough, somebody will do that, will build on top of that model too, or the model will just kind of cannibalize you. So I get why
Yeah.
they're rushing to this level. The incentive is clear, but there's labor laws for a reason. I just think it's
Yeah.
completely and wholly unethical.
Yeah, it's essentially the sacrifice that you make when you join companies like this. So when you want to do these high pace or fast paced professions, this is the sacrifice that usually comes with it. Is there a limit to how much is too much? I think that's where the labor laws come in. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, people always find a way around it.
What concerns me though is I remember John Maynard Keynes. Well, I don't remember. I'm not that old. He's an economist that died a long, long time ago. The Keynesian School of Economics. He predicted back in the 40s that we would have like a 10-hour work week because technology was getting so advanced that we won't need to work that much. There'll be so much automation. Obviously, that turned out to be not true at all. And a lot of people are saying that about AI, and I think that is not the case. That is not how human nature has worked with new technologies. What happens is we try to do more with less, and we try to double down. So if we can do the work of 10 people with 3 people because of AI, employers are like, okay, why can't we do the work of 20 people now? Let's keep going. Like, it's a consistent race for efficiency, and there's never the point where we get to, all right, that's enough. Let's just leave our standards as it is, and let's all just maybe use ChatGPT so that we can only work at half speed. Anyone thinking there's going to be some utopia where we're not going to have to work because AI is going to do all the work, you got another thing coming. These employers are going to push you to the max and push you to
Yeah.
the point of no return, no matter what new technology arises.
Yeah, if anything, they'll find another way to make us feel bad for not being productive enough. We're obsessed with the
Yeah.
productivity. So, I mean, we're always going to be in this state of efficiency, always.
And then not just that, it's even worse now because it'll be like, if you don't work hard, we're going to work hard on replacing you with the AI itself. So it's like, get to work. On a other kind of sad note, there's been a prominent black-owned beauty brand that shut down. I know you were keeping tabs of it. Fill in the audience. What's going on with this brand?
Oh, yeah. So basically, and I'm pretty sure it was available over in the UK and in Europe, but I'm not exactly sure. But basically, here in the States, there was this big beauty brand called Colé, founded by this amazing woman named Jara. And basically, it was like targeted to melanin skin. So
Mm,
think people of color, really. And it was kind of this standout brand. Like it had this lip gloss. It was like the first one to this whole lip gloss movement. The products were really, really good for a really, really affordable price. And it was kind of the it girl in the market, like a leader in the
mm,
market. It had some backers. I was looking at their pitch book. They had backers like, I think, Greycroft, G9, the editor in chief of The Cut, Lindsay Peoples Wagner. So, I mean, they had some big names backing it. And it announced a few weeks ago, maybe last week, a week before that, that it was just shutting down. And it's completely shocking because, again, I was looking at PitchBook metrics and they raised about $3 million allegedly, according to
mm,
PitchBook. And it was kind of, it was kind of everything that they, it was everything that people wanted a beauty brand to be. It was popular. It was in Sephora. Everyone loved it. It had a cult following. People love Jara. Like people loved everything about this brand, and yet it still failed. And Jara wrote a piece in The Cut about it, and where she kind of insinuated that a lot of the support she received after the murder of George Floyd in 2020, I think because her brand launched in 2021, she received a lot of support like a lot of Black founders did. But this is a different market now. And so
right.
a lot of that support, she kind of insinuated, has changed over the past few years. And in her piece, she also kind of made it seem that perhaps it was really, really hard to keep up with the scale, especially as investors wanted more growth, wanted, the brand to, I mean, she was in like 600 Sephora stores, and there's only so much that a small business can do, especially if they're having trouble fundraising. So this has been one of those stories where it's like, if a brand like this can't make it, then who can? And also, what kind of replaces this? I mean, of course, there are other beauty brands that target, melanin skin, but this was kind of the leader in that category. And it's like, can we not have anything? Is everything
Yeah.
going to collapse? Now I'm worried. I'm like, oh my gosh, the hair care brand I use is a small Black business. She's also going through manufacturing and scaling issues and funding problems. If she leaves, I was like, I'm not going to have any makeup. I'm not going to have any hair care. Like, we're just losing all of these things now.
Or some large corporation will come in, clone it, or buy up the scraps, and it's no longer black owned, unfortunately, right? I think
The
it's
formula changes.
that part too. That's definitely a cliche. It's difficult, right? When you raise VC and then you try to go into retail, it's so capital intensive. And like you said, I guess in the kind of post George Floyd era, these investors, they're not living up to what they said they would do, right? There's been so many stories of promises made that have now been rescinded. I think there was even a lawsuit against PayPal because they had claimed that they were going to invest, hundreds of millions of dollars into Black founders, and that never turned up. So I feel for the brands that raised money during that time period, expecting that that would probably continue when they needed extra capital to kind of fuel expansion. And that's not been the case. And then the other thing is, I remember speaking to a Black founder here in the UK who's trying to raise money for their kind of also beauty brand. And they were telling me they wanted to go to retail. And I was doing VC scout work at the time. And I was just like, I'm not sure if you want to do that. This whole, your D2C play is working. Retail is a different animal. You're dealing with people with infinite cash reserves. You're dealing with people who are going to want you to be in 1,000 stores, and they don't give a damn about your capital needs. They're like, if you can do it, do it. If you can't do it, we'll find somebody else. So it's a very difficult game. I know you mentioned, is it Rhodes, the Hailey
Yeah,
Bieber
Rose
brand
Beauty,
who
Hailey Bieber that
exited
just
for a
sold
billion?
for a
Yeah.
billion, which is like it's so interesting because I was reading, I mean, because even Ami Colé even had like L'Oreal Ventures as a backer, which
Yeah.
that's I
Just
mean, it's
9 months before they
L'Oreal.
shut down. Just 9 months before they closed down, which is crazy.
And so yeah, and then it could you can make the argument that maybe this is a false equivalency, but just going off of like the news of Hailey Bieber exiting for $1 billion, and
Mm.
then like weeks later, a beloved black beauty brand shuts down, another black business is struggling. A lot of people were kind of a little miffed. They were like, of course, another exit, because they were like, could no one pour money into Ami Colé? Could no one acquire this business? Could no one give them more cash flow? Like, what was going on? Why are all these, non-black beauty brands doing so well? Why is it another exit and we're struggling still and again?
Um, I'm not super familiar with the space, but would you say that the celebrity backed brand just has an inherent advantage now over just like a regular brand? Like it
Oh
does feel
yeah,
that way.
I
It
mean,
does feel like they said, yeah.
she is Hailey Bieber. She is married to Justin Bieber. So I mean, but I think it just stings a little bit. I think it just stung a bit.
Um, I think lessons for entrepreneurs from my perspective is, yeah, be very careful when you go into retail. Be very careful when you go into traditional VC as well. Like it's not necessarily easy, but there might be other alternatives that are alternative sources of capital that are far more patient and don't require you to grow as aggressively. Who knows? Maybe our investors pushed her to grow at all costs, which VCs tend to do. And if you've got a good thing going on, D2C, don't rush into these clouty channels like retail. Because sometimes I know what it's like as an entrepreneur. You feel like you don't have a real business until you can walk into the shop and you could be like, Mom, Dad, look, I've got a real brand and we're in the retail stores that, we've grown up watching, but it might jeopardize your business for
Yeah,
real, for
and
real.
there was a Puck article about it when they were after the shutdown of Ami Colé. They looked into small businesses selling through Sephora, and they eventually at the end they said that the businesses that have kind of the most success with Sephora are the ones that exclusively sell in Sephora. And so a brand
Interesting.
like Ami Colé that was D2C and then went into Sephora. I guess those are like two different channels in a weird sense that she's selling through. And they were talking about how a lot of the times dealing with the expectations of Sephora and also the other expectations can kind of crush a business.
Right. So it's a matter of focus that potentially trying to do both at the same time, you might have difficulty getting supply. I can imagine it's not necessarily straightforward to juggle
Well,
both.
because Sephora also has their own expectations and their own demands.
Volume. Yeah.
And so it's probably just a lot. It's a lot.
I can imagine. On separate news, there may be a payday waiting for some of our listeners. So there is now a trial going on between 5 users of the Flow app, which is the most downloaded period and fertility tracking app in the world with over 100 million users, obviously most of them women. There's now a lawsuit alleging that they have been sharing personal data unlawfully with Meta. So I looked into this and at first I thought, like, are they selling the data to Meta? What's happened is that they are obviously trying to grow their product and they are trying to use Meta's advertising tools and trying to get them to be as targeted as possible. So one of the easy ways to do that is to upload the data of your existing users. So you might say, this user does X. Therefore, if I upload that into Meta, that will allow my Instagram ads to be far more targeted because we'll know what user behavior is more like. Now, what they promise you when you download the app is that this is a private data. We're not going to share your data. So there's been this lawsuit. I think they actually were sued earlier on a few years ago as well. But yeah, so I don't know if this is a class action lawsuit, but if you are somebody who's interested in getting paid and you think you might have a case here, I would definitely recommend looking into this because there might be some shekels and coins for everyone to get involved in if you're a user. It's interesting because actually this is actually a mail run app, and Abedis has talked to me about this before personally. So this is a male founded majority run app. Would you say, Dom, that has played a role in this? That maybe a female founded app would have more care and empathy with their majority female user base's data?
This is actually a good question, and I think it goes back to I remember when the news broke that Flow raised like $1 billion, and a lot of women founders that I spoke to were like, "This app is run by men." And
Yeah.
so I thought it was really, really interesting then the reaction. And seeing this now, I mean, first of all, not surprised that data is ending up in the hands of advertising places because I just assume everything on the internet, people are always selling our data for ads.
Hmm.
But I actually, it's a good point. Perhaps a woman would have been more thoughtful and using a lot of, or thoughtful in how they treated their user data and wouldn't so just carelessly upload it to, I don't know, give it to Meta in any sort of way. That's actually a good point. Perhaps. I mean,
Do you
it's hard to know.
are you somebody that would particularly care about who owns the apps that you use if the app obviously serves a function for you in your personal life? Like, would you sit there and say, if you've got two alternative apps, there's a woman owned app, there's a male run app, maybe the woman run app is a bit newer, a bit less tested in the market, maybe has raised less capital, would you still be like, I'd rather go for the woman based app in case something like this happens? Or is that something that you just, you're not really checking out?
I don't necessarily check it out, but I do like to give women and people of color a chance. I guess it goes down to like any sort of product. I mean, we're just talking about skin and hair care. There's a lot of, hair brands I use, but it feels a little better knowing that the one I use is founded by a black woman.
Mm,
I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't necessarily pay attention to it, but I think it just adds to the experience, really.
right. Yeah, I think you, along with probably most of the users, probably weren't even necessarily. I mean, I think you probably aware, but I'm saying most users probably weren't even aware that it was male owned. I've seen people like react to that. And actually, there was one article where the founder came out talking about their success. And I was like, bruv, what are you doing? Like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
that's
Keep it on the
yeah,
low. If this was my app, I probably wouldn't run this app, but if this was my app, you wouldn't even know that I was involved. I would
yeah,
have a
because
female
that's
CEO. I would be in the background just getting my coin because have some shame. If you're doing something that does not look good marketing wise, fall back. The arrogance to be like, yeah, I'm the CEO, I'm in charge, guys. Like, come on, man. Like, read the room. Like, don't have some consultants, some PR people telling you like what looks good and what doesn't. And yeah, it's terrible because actually, when I look at what this tool tracks, obviously you can track if you're pregnant, maybe you can track, when you've logged a period, and for them to so freely give that information to Meta in order just to scale at all costs, that's
yeah,
insane.
especially in an era like this in the US where kind of women's reproductive rights are under probably the biggest threat it's been under in the past few decades. I know that what was happening to user data with reproductive apps like this were people were a little nervous about it when Roe was overturned a few years ago.
That
And so
part too.
hearing something like this is like is our data safe? Something we can talk about is, talking about the Flow app reaching $1 billion valuation, raising all this money while women founders don't raise much capital at all. Kind of on the other side of that is this Thinking Machine Labs from Mira, from OpenAI, and how she kind of raised like what is it, like 2 billion on a 10 billion valuation with no product?
Yeah, so she raised a seed round, a $2 billion seed round at an approximate $12 billion valuation. And Andreessen Horowitz, Nvidia, Excel, all partaking in that. And she was the ex CTO of OpenAI. So, she is obviously highly credentialed and obviously knows what she's doing in terms of building out these sort of models. But yeah, it's wild. She probably raised more money than like all women founders have raised in the last like 10 years combined. Don't quote me on that stat, right? But like $2 billion is not a small chunk of change.
No,
And it
it's a
does feel
lot.
like we are in
A
maybe
bubble.
we're in a bubble, definitely, but it's almost like we're in two different splinter economies where like everybody else, even within tech, is kind of, not sure if there's layoffs, they're struggling, watching over their shoulder, job insecurity. But then there's the kind of AI part of the tech industry. People are getting $100 million job offers to work at Meta. Researchers are being fawned after like the LeBron James or Steph Curry. And then you've got founders raising billions of dollars without a product, which is unheard of. Like, every bit of advice you get when you try to apply for YC is we need traction, we need an MVP, we need to see that you've got customers. She just walked in there and said, I'm this person, this is what I've done. I'm probably not even going to tell you too much about what we're building. Just give me 2 billion. And because we're in a kind of gold rush, there was no shortage of backers. But it's a tough space, you've got OpenAI, you've got Anthropic, you've got Google Gemini, Google's got their model now, Meta's got I forgot the name of the Meta one. What's Meta's model called? Damn, I'm drawing a blank.
My
Llama.
gosh.
Llama. Yeah,
Yeah.
Llama's the runt of the pack because Llama is not as good, apparently. Do you what comes to mind when you see this? Like, is it just like go, 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 go? Or is it just like, you know, this don't make no sense? Like
It's
what
so
what
funny. I had so many women in my DMs going like, "This is insane," and it's so funny because, like, obviously Mira is a woman, and it's like, "Yay, we got this like really big fundraise," but then they were also like, "This is insane," because in the bigger picture of things, I kind of When I think about these big AI funding rounds, I just go back to, I don't know, the word I think of is just hypocrisy, because it's like there's no
Mm.
money for literally any other business, any business founded by like a person of color, any business usually founded by a woman, but yet suddenly we can give all these AI companies billions of dollars off of no product, just an idea to see if they make it. And like there's no problem with that, but it's kind of like there's inconsistency, I feel, in the narrative of what they tell a lot of founders versus what they actually do in practice. Because OpenAI, what is their valuation now? Like
That's a good
I
shout.
I forgot. It was either it's like 30 billion or 300 billion or something like that, but it's like they're not profitable.
300.
300
300
billion,
billion.
right?
Yeah.
That's like what is Disney's market cap? Like something similar, right? It's kind of like OpenAI is not profitable and probably won't be forever. And so
Disney is 218 million. So OpenAI is worth more than Disney.
I just don't it I just don't feel like there needs to be consistency in what we tell and what we who's we, oh my gosh, and what people tell or what investors tell founders. Because I mean, I'm writing a story right now where a late stage investor was saying like there's definitely market, there's definitely capital, there's a lot of capital in the market. It's just going to fewer and fewer companies.
Mm.
So that's what I just think about that when I see these really, really big rounds is I think of all the founders who aren't getting a chance at all, which I don't know, because you would see so much really cool innovation. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I'm really glad she got, all this money to, I guess, play around with. But
Mm.
I do think about all the people that we leave out.
I've never seen so much money being accrued to individual actors. So this company is clearly raising money just based on who she is and what she's done as a employee at OpenAI. Same with the kind of people who are getting paid to join Meta. There was a rumor actually that a high level person at OpenAI was offered $1 billion by Mark to join Meta. He has come out and said that's not true, but the person who said that it happened, they've got their story, right? They said he came to me and said, what about this? What about that? What about this? And it's a confusing time. Essentially, the North Star is AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence. And whoever gets to that, essentially the returns are infinite. Apparently, there's a belief that once you have that, you can conquer all problems, and your capital return probably would be in the trillions. So all of this stuff is basically table stakes. It's just like, all right, why not? Let's just get involved. Maybe she will do it, or. So this is why the kind of insanity to a certain extent is logical from the perspective of a capital allocator, because you're just like, well, if I can build AGI, $2 billion, that ain't nothing. Let me get involved. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's very, 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 very confusing. We'll leave it at that. We'll do a Patreon story now. I think let's talk about the T app controversy. We'll save it for the Patrons. Any closing thoughts on a wonderful episode of Techish? You want to
Closing
plug the
thought.
Black Cat?
But yeah, subscribe to my newsletter, The Black Cat. Follow me on Instagram at Dominic Midori. Support a minority business today. And yeah.
Yeah, love it. And by supporting a minority business, that includes Techish. So if you want to subscribe to our Patreon for extra content, please feel free to do that. All right, cool. Thank you, everyone. Catch you next week. Peace. Bye. So coming up, we've got a Patreon story. We've got to talk about the T app, which was this app where you can kind of like rate potential romantic partners, and it's kind of gone all wrong. To watch the full episode, subscribe at patreon.com/techish. You'll get access to all full-length episodes, no adverts, the chance to submit your questions into the show, and early bird discounted tickets to our live shows. Subscribe for as little as $5 a month.